Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Crosby in Care of Relationships. Today, I want to talk about tending to delight, and Happy New Year, by the way. But I just wanted to start off the new year talking about something that matters so much on a daily basis. And you might call it a delight practice. You might call it the practice of delight, just some way to remember that life is beautiful. So that's what I want, no matter if there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. And there are a lot of ways to define something like delight. But for me, delight is when we engage our senses and our spirits to take a look at the world, to experience the world. And when we do, whatever that thing is, whatever that moment of delight is, we feel a welling up of joy, goodness, and gratitude. So that's what delight brings. So that's my own definition of delight. So it's good to put delight on our radar. The more we look for it, the more we notice it. We all know that wherever we put our attention, we get more of that. But besides that, it's actually fun. It's a good reason to have delight on our radar. But there are other reasons as well to make delight a practice, if you will, to make noticing delightful things a practice. There's a whole variety of reasons, and I'd like to cover those today. One is that it makes us more resilient. We're more able to keep a positive attitude in the face of difficulty if we spend time regularly, faithfully, if we spend time noticing what's delightful about our day, our morning, our life, that sort of thing. And my favorite really quick story about this resilience idea is about a broken lemon tart. There's a chef in Italy. His name is Chef Massimo Bottura, and he has a 3-star Michelin restaurant. It has 12 tables and lots of beautiful art. I've never been there, but I would like to go. And it's called Osteria Franciscana. And as I said, it's in Modena. So one of the restaurant's signature desserts came about in this very unusual way. The pastry chef was making this dessert and he dropped the lemon tart. So instead of trashing it and starting over or getting upset, he actually he turned the smashed tart into a work of art, and it became one of the restaurant's most famous dishes. It's in their recipe book, it's in Chef Massimo Bottura's recipe book. It's called Never Trust a Skinny Chef. And so after he broke the lemon tart, he used tweezers. He arranged this broken lemon tart in a very artful way on the plate. And then he used tweezers to put the other flavors around, like candied bergamot, lemongrass, capers, and then he drizzled it with the usual mint sauce. Anyway, it came out really well, and now it's one of their most famous recipes. So you might say that things work out for those who make the best of how things work out. He certainly did. So instead of stressing, he got creative. Here's another really good reason to pay attention to delight. It has to do with endorphins. Endorphins are neurotransmitters. They are chemical messengers that transmit signals within the nervous system. And they're produced in the brain and the nervous system. And I'm not a doctor, but I've read that they're in lots of different places in the body. And these endorphins serve as natural painkillers and mood elevators. So sometimes their endorphins are released in response to stress or pain to help the body cope. And sometimes it's during exercise. So that exercise is a well-known trigger for that. So when you engage in aerobic exercise like running, you've heard of runner's high. That's where that comes from, is that you're full of endorphins from running. And so it's a feeling of euphoria, but they are also produced during simple, joyful activities, such as spending time with loved ones, pets, for instance, also, and enjoying hobbies, anything that makes you laugh, like watching a funny movie or listening to music. So joyful activity also releases endorphins. And endorphins last a variety, they don't last forever, depending on the intensity or the duration of what caused the release in the first place. The effects of running a couple of miles is probably stronger than a single laugh. You know what I mean? All right. So how else does developing our capacity for delight help us? Another way is that it stimulates our creativity. So here's an example. In the 1920s, a Swiss engineer named George de Mestral, Mestral, he took his dog for a walk in the Alps. And after the walk, he noticed that his dog and his own clothes too were covered in burdock burrs. So instead of getting upset about it, he kind of put his engineer hat on, and he decided to really investigate these burrs and how they were so easily attached, strongly attached to his clothes and his dog's fur. So he had an idea that gave him an idea about a new type of fastener, and it's how Velcro was invented. That's exactly how it was invented. Velcro is a combination of the words velour or velvet and crochet, Velcro. That's how it came about. So, hey, that's a good, delight stimulated his creativity instead of being upset about the state of things. Gosh, I'm covered with burrs. So in relationships, this is part of where I got the whole idea for this show today, is this Book of Delights by Ross Gay. Ross is a writer, a poet. He writes prose and poetry. And when he was writing his book of essays, he said, "A life lived to acknowledge delight is not without sorrow or fear or pain or loss, but simply pulls up a chair for delight to sit in day after day. A cup of coffee from a well-shaped cup, the top knot of the barista, the sweet glance of the man in his stylish short pants, well-lotioned ankles gleaming beneath." So those were some examples of delight that he talked about. And so his guarantee to himself was that he would write an essay every day, or an essayette, as he called them, because that's even shorter than an essay. He said that he would write an essay a day from August 1st, his birthday, to the next August 1st, one a day. So he came up with a handful of rules that he had to draft them quickly, write them by hand, and there was one more. Oh, begin and end on his birthday, draft them quickly and write them by hand. And that the principle behind the whole thing is that he would spend time thinking and writing about delight every day. So from doing this has to do with our relationships with other people. From doing this, he noticed, quote unquote, what was often on his mind. So noticing delight brings up what's often on your mind. And so one of my thoughts about this is certainly delight, certain kinds of delight, we would find out the different kinds of delight that are on our mind. But we would also notice more often when we were not delighted. And it gives us a chance to adjust that if we like. So in addition to that, looking for delight helps us be someone others want to be connected with. It's easier to be around a happy, delighted person, a happy person, but it's easier to be around a person who's easily delighted, easily amused by life. So there's another big part of this that has to do with delight and gratitude. Delight and gratitude are very connected. Remember at the beginning, I said that delight, when you notice a delightful thing, it brings up feelings of joy. There were 3 words: joy, goodness, and gratitude. And so gratitude is a big part of delight for me. And one of the things I noticed is that delight is a bridge to gratitude. When life isn't going well, it's hard to be in that big grateful place. It's hard to say to yourself, gosh, I'm so grateful so grateful to be alive. Maybe you just now got a broken heart or some disaster happened. And so in those moments, I have noticed that sometimes I am interrupted by delight, and the interruption reminds me that there is another side to the question, that this too will pass, this thing that just happened. But delight doesn't march us toward gratitude. Delight is more like a step, and it helps us inch back toward gratitude. I really appreciate the gentleness of delight. Because even when you're in great pain, I have noticed that even when, my heart has just been broken, I can still notice how perfect the strawberry tastes in my mouth, or this beautiful bird. Maybe I walked outside and there's a beautiful bird singing. And so even it gives you both sides of the reality. It reminds you that it's not all terrible, even though it feels terrible right now. So delight interrupts us to remind us of that. I love that about delight. And I just want to say this because it's such a common human experience. When things aren't going well and someone wants you to be more grateful than you are, they try to hurry you through the process of feeling bad and look on the bright side right away, and you're not ready. So you kind of feel like punching their lights out, or at least walking away. Anyway, it's just such a common human experience, and delight plays a part in that. It sort of helps us get back on center. It can be a hot day and the breeze blows on my face, and it cools me off, and it just feels, it's a moment of delight. So delight is never denial. I just want to say that. So in the middle of all that pain, experiencing delight is not denial about what's really going on. It's more of a balance to the things that are hard for us, like exhaustion or despair or feeling numb about life. And delight helps us remember both aspects of reality, the hard stuff and the good stuff. There's also something about delight that is so deeply personal. Have you ever noticed this? That delight is your forms of delight. What delights you is based on your sense, your memories, and your nostalgia, your sense experiences in the past, and your body and your brain and your heart. It's based on you, what delights you. And when delight comes in these random and unexpected ways, it helps us release sort of the tight grip on our attitude at that moment. Maybe we're experiencing something difficult, or our plan. You have to actually let go to fully experience a delight that's there in your moment, in your day. So you have to suspend for just a second whatever your focus was, so that you can take in the delight of this particular moment. All right, which is, all of this is to say that delight has sort of a cascading effect. It produces endorphins. It reminds you of both realities, the tough stuff and the good stuff. It's very personal. It comes randomly. It asks you to let go. Delight is such an incredible thing. So it helps us lighten up in life, and it helps you remember that no matter whatever the current evidence is, things usually turn out fine, sometimes more wonderful than you can imagine. Just think about the pastry chef and how he created one of the restaurant's most famous desserts. Delight can the effect of this cascading, or I should say this cascading effect, can also help us talk ourselves out of trouble. I love that. So focusing on delight is an excuse not to get so upset about things. I've said this to myself many times when I was sort of sailing along toward upset, I'm getting a little revved up, that I say to myself, I could get upset all the way right now, but what if I didn't? What if I didn't? What else could I do? What else could I do with my time and my energy? So I love that about delight, and being focused on delight helps. So the result of that is that it helps us reduce worry. The practice itself makes us more resilient and more resourceful and more appreciative of what we do have, because everybody's life gets handed a fair share of challenges and disasters and oopses. We all get that. Before I leave the worry subject, have you ever been around somebody who's worried less than you are about something in particular? It's such an enlightening thing, isn't it? That's when I say to myself, I could keep on this, I could stay on this worry train, I could be on this upset train, or I could do like my friend does and not get so upset about the small stuff. And, that saying that everything is the small stuff. So focusing on having dibs and dabs of delight throughout your day, it helps us soften the different mental habits of worry or anxiety or upset that maybe have gotten a stronghold here and there. It helps soften them, the ones that aren't really to your advantage. It's that there's a saying, be hard to offend and easy to impress. I love that saying. And delight is all the ways that we're easy to impress. So one of the things I used to do in California when I lived there, so I'm suggesting that you might try this, when you need a lift, try a delight walk. Go outside with the deliberate purpose of noticing what delights you. Before I used to live in California, my apartment was in Marina del Rey and my office was in Venice. And I would get in my car in Marina del Rey and I would go to this cafe in Venice near my office, which was called the Rose Cafe. And I would people watch, because to me, that is a delightful thing to do. And I could have a cup of coffee and write poetry or prose or whatever and observe people and relax and prepare for my day of work at the office, which consisted of being with people and talking to people about their lives. And so I would do some hours of that, and then I would take a break in the afternoon and go for an ocean walk and have another delightful walk. So I highly recommend that practice. There were so many things that delighted me about the ocean, the sound of seagulls and watching pelicans skim across the top of the waves and hearing children playing on the beach, things like that. It was just so delightful. The sound of the waves crashing. So delight to start off 2024. Delight is absolutely worth your time and attention. And it's not just for you, it's to be shared. Delight is a wonderful thing to share because it reminds us that the world is beautiful, even when faced with a whole lot of evidence to the contrary. So share your delight with others. Share your delight with others. All right. I'm Terry Crosby in Care of Relationships. You can find me at incareofrelationships.com. My contact information is here at the on this site, and you can schedule a free meet and greet to talk to me to see if we might work together. I do private consultations. I work with individuals and couples mostly about life and relationships, a lot about relationships, but sometimes about life issues. And so I'd love to help you if I can. Let me know if I can be of assistance. Take very, very good care of yourself.